Dolly demands justice. This project is created and presented by Jillian Cohen, Jamie McLean, Allison Howie, Megan Smith, and Kaylin Maholoy.
Number 6 LL3 was born on July 5, 1996 at the Roslin Biocentre in Scotland. Dubbed Dolly by her creators Ian Wilmot and Keith Campbell, she was the first living, breathing clone of an adult mammal. Cloning had been attempted and successful as seen in the 1960s by means of a frog. However, mammals were initially perceived as too complex. This scientific breakthrough caused shockwaves throughout the world. People were unsure whether to welcome the innovation or be anxious of its effects. Many believed that the cloning of Dolly was a case of science that had gone too far, and the scientists behind the invention were acting like creator rather than creature. The negative connotation that is attributed to this case centers on the bioethical principles, specifically justice. The general public was concerned not only because the cloning seemed wrong, but also because they were unsure of what would now come of the scientific breakthrough. The literature highlights controversies surrounding the effects of cloning. It focuses on the bioethical principles of justice while touching on the other principles of autonomy, beneficence, and non-maleficence. Dolly was cloned with the help of 3 sheep. From sheep A, a 6-year-old ewe, a single memory cell was lifted and the DNA from the cell was extracted. From sheep B, an unfertilized egg cell was recovered and stripped of its DNA. The DNA from sheep A's cell was placed into the empty vessel of an egg cell from sheep B, providing the DNA for the cell. The cell then fused and developed into an embryo and was placed into a surrogate mother that carried Dolly to full term and birthed her. Dolly is a clone of sheep A because they have the exact same DNA.
One bioethical principle that relates to Dolly's case is justice, meaning fairness, rightness, and equity. It refers to standards and expectations which society holds and the rights and services that are due to any member of that society. In the case of Dolly the Sheep, many critics claim that the use of a sheep for animal research is immoral and unfair to animals. Although Dolly was never physically harmed, she may not have lived a fully healthy, normal life. Another argument regarding the bioethical principle of justice is that the use of animals for reproduction stifles the production of new life while interfering with natural life processes. In the case of Dolly the sheep, scientists used living animal cells to create a life that would not have been possible without human intervention. This technique may lead to unexpected health consequences for these animals. An argument that is at the forefront of the Dolly the Sheep case is the debate of whether or not it was fair to use animal cells and reproductive parts to create a new life without the consent of the donors. Obviously, animals cannot verbally give consent to the procedure, so is it actually fair to use them for scientific research? With this in mind, it is important to consider that the use of animals' bodies and given parts were not voluntarily given by the donors. An important aspect of the Dolly case are the rights acquired or not granted as a result of cloning. The case of Dolly affects society's perception of the treatment of animals and how humans interact with animals.
Evaluation of the fairness and rightness of cloning using the bioethical principles of autonomy, beneficence, and non-maleficence. Autonomy is the bioethical principle that refers to humans being able to make their own decisions which affect themselves. In order for an autonomous decision to work, the patient must know and understand all of the information regarding the procedure. They should not be pressured or threatened in any way swayed to come to a resulting decision. However, the definition of autonomy itself uses the word humans, but what about animals? Animals are unable to voice their own opinions and decisions. Therefore, referring back to the bioethical principle of justice, it is difficult to say that this case of cloning to make Dolly was in any way right or fair given that the sheep were not disclosed any information nor could they comprehend it. Ultimately, the cloning of Dolly violates the bioethical principle of autonomy because the sheep simply are unable to speak for themselves and voice autonomous decisions.
The ethical principle of beneficence, which refers to all forms of action that benefit other persons, comes up throughout the cloning of Dolly. By performing this procedure, the cloning of humans has since been banned in many countries. This procedure also has many benefits, such as giving life to Dolly, her offspring, and benefiting research. This has since made it easier for scientists to clone animals from adult cells and has been performed on cats, rabbits, horses, and donkeys, pigs, goats, and cattle. Animal cloning has become a useful way to produce more farm animals, although there are high risks such as pregnancy loss and high mortality during the neonatal period. The development of cloning technology has also led to new ways of production of medicine and has prevented diseases in humans. Cloning has improved our understanding of development and genetics.
Non-maleficence requires that one does not intentionally cause harm. In the case of Dolly, the bioethical principle of non-maleficence emerges when one considers the purposes and effects of her cloning. One asks, what are the intentions behind cloning her, and what are the consequences of such cloning? Dolly's life was cut short at the age of 6. Some believed her death was caused by premature aging, which was also believed to have caused her arthritis. Dolly was cloned from a 6-year-old ewe, making her 12 years old in reality. Professor Richard Gardner said, if there is a link between cloning her and her death, it'll provide further evidence of the dangers inherent in reproductive cloning and the irresponsibility of anyone who is trying to extend such work to humans. Although her arthritis and premature aging were concerns for Dolly, a much more serious problem was feared. In January 2000, another cloned sheep named Cedric died. The autopsy revealed that Cedric had died from sheep pulmonary adenomatosis, also known as SPA. This disease is caused by a virus that induces tumors to grow in the lungs of affected animals and is also incurable. Dolly remained healthy until February 2003, when an animal care worker reported that he saw her coughing. Examinations and blood tests were conducted, but failed to establish a diagnosis. A CT scan was then carried out. The scan confirmed that the tumors were in fact growing in Dolly's chest. Since a general anesthetic had been necessary to perform the CT scan, it was decided that it would be best if Dolly did not regain consciousness, and she was ultimately put to sleep. In the efforts to give Dolly the most normal life possible, it was determined that she was allowed to breed. A small Welsh mountain ram was selected as her mate, and between them they successfully produced 6 lambs. The first lamb was born in the spring of 1998. Twins followed the next year, and triplets the year after that. Unfortunately for these offspring, it was later discovered that Dolly had passed down the SPA disease to them as well. While there are positives that can result from cloning, negative results also occur. Cloned animals that do survive are often born with large offspring syndrome. This can lead to issues with breathing, blood flow, and other problems. There is also the possibility of premature aging, which is what happened in Dolly's case. In addition, there is also the fact that this could lead to the cloning of humans, which presents several concerns. With human cloning, there are several things that could go wrong. It could result in overpopulation, a lack of genetic diversity, and contradictions with many people's belief systems. Many believe that it is simply against the laws of nature. Displayed here are pictures of cloning research, as well as a picture of Dolly being treated for her arthritis. Shown here is a chart of the positive and negative effects of cloning. On the positive side we have, cloning gave life to Dolly and her offspring. It also benefited research. It's now easier for scientists to clone animals. It has also allowed for advances in medicine to prevent diseases in humans. Cloning could also help endangered species. It could help to fight hunger as well. In addition, it could help in the recreation of damaged organs. On the negative side we have, cloning could lead to large offspring syndrome. It could also cause premature aging. In the long term, it could also lead to human cloning. The issues that come with this are overpopulation, lack of genetic diversity, contradictions with the belief systems, and some believe that it's against the laws of nature. Discussing the ethical, clinical, and professional issues regarding cloning.
Overall, this particular case of cloning can be considered unethical. As previously mentioned, it does not hold into account the bioethical principles of justice, autonomy, beneficence, and non-maleficence. Additionally, the entire procedure interfered with natural processes such as reproduction. The end does not justify the means, in that if the end is to clone humans, are the possible repercussions of that worth using cloning in this specific case to fight disease?
When discussing the ethics behind clinical issues in cloning, we determined that cloning in Dolly's case was unethical. Firstly, the opportunity for success in cloning animals is 1 in hundreds. Therefore, these trials cost a lot of time, money, and resources. There is also risk for potential harm to the surrogate mothers and their fetuses. Some of these risks include problems during birth, deformations, and disease. In addition, these issues are likely to be passed down to the offspring of the cloned animal.
Through the professional aspects of cloning, Dr. Ian Woolmott and the team of scientists did not have malicious intent when beginning their cloning procedure. Although the birth of Dolly was kept under wraps from the public until the publication of the results could be properly prepared, Dr. Woolmott, along with his team, approached cloning with the belief that it would allow for progress in the medical field. They succeeded with the development of cloning technology, leading to new ways of producing medicines. Below is a picture of Dolly and one of her offspring, as well as Dolly and Dr. Woolmott. We recommend the following when it comes to cloning: better planning and organization, such as informing the public on progress in their research, legislation on limits of cloning, and required legal process for those who intend to clone. Some final questions that we have are: which bioethical principle do you think is most applicable to this situation? And should there be a limit to what and who could be cloned?